Divine protections are one major element of the power system of ReZero, bestowed by an entity called Odlagonal. People are naturally born with set powers, and some can be extremely useful and others not really. To the date of recording, there are 100 known divine protections in ReZero, and in today's video we'll explain all of them. I will divide the divine protections into various sections: the ones used by most characters, the non-canon / unconfirmed ones, the ones used by Reinhard for combat, and the ones used by Reinhard for non-combat. Spoiler-wise, I'll only talk about what the divine protections can do, so there's nothing really here that can change your watching experience, so feel free to watch the whole video. With that settled, let's start with one of the first divine protections we saw in the series, Wind Reading, Crush Karsten's divine protection. This divine protection allows her to read the meticulous changes in the wind, being able to depict the other's emotions or if they are lying. The divine protection could also be used with her sword, an ability called the One Blow 100 Feld. By imbuing her sword with the wind reading, Crush was able to land devastating long-range slashes with a swing of her sword, sharp enough to slash the white whale, witch cultists, and even the scales of a dragon. It's an extremely versatile divine protection, as she can use it both in battle and in her political duties. One done, 99 left to go, and let's continue with the divine protection of durability, which increases the durability of any item a person is wielding. This ability is imbued with Crush's armor, making it far more durable than normal as long as her mana does not run out, so it's basically an armor filled by mana. Moving on, the divine protection of Gathering Spirits is used by Julius Euculius, and it enables him to see, talk, and be liked by spirits, although the user must work hard to actually get liked by them. During battle, he can take advantage of multiple lesser spirits in the atmosphere to perform magical attacks, and he also formed contracts with extremely strong spirits by being a natural hard worker himself, being able to perform a variety of magical attacks by combining magical elements, such as Alcaw's Area, which could disfigure an entire dragon with one single blow. The divine protection of the Soul of Language is Auto's ability that allows him to talk with all sorts of living creatures, and although it sounds good, not many people were able to use this ability properly, as most of them end up going mad due to the non-stop barrage of noises of the animals. Auto is only the second person in history who managed to tame it. If he uses the divine protection too much, it can cause him damage, so he must be careful using it. It's a very difficult divine protection to have, sometimes even being a burden instead of a blessing, but once one has control of it, it turns into an extremely useful ability. Auto uses it to find faster routes on his travels and even in his strategies, by grabbing information of the animals around him, just like he did in Pristella and also while fighting Garfield in the Sanctuary. Talking about Garfield, he has the divine protection of Earth Spirits. With this divine protection, as long as the user's bare feet is on the ground, their body is covered in a tough guard of Earth. The user can cause the Earth to cave in a single step, reduce the effects of Earth magic, and even accelerate the recovery of wounds and stamina. He pretty much can manipulate the Earth on touch and get buffed in both toughness and recovery, which is extremely cool, and it's Garfield we're talking about here. One of the strongest and most combat talented characters in this show, so he does use this divine protection to its utmost. The divine protection of demon manipulation is used by Melee, and it allows her to control witch beasts. Every witch beast has a horn, which gives function to them, and with her divine protection, Melee can basically act as their horn, so the witch beasts will obey her every command. It has a downside, however, as the stronger the witch beast is, the less control Melee has upon it. So if she tried to control the white whale or the great rabbit, she would struggle a lot and probably not be able to do it. Nevertheless, she can control most of the witch beasts we saw in the series so far, being able to command around 100 at a time. It is also said to be one of the rarest and most useful divine protections in history, and it has a particularity. Only one person in the world can have this divine protection at a time. This happens to most of the most useful divine protections, and let's be honest, being able to tame deadly beasts that can kill you in one bite should be a power to be reckoned with, so it would be unfair if someone like Reinhard randomly got it. Speaking of him, and the divine protection that is shared is the divine protection of telepathy, used by both Reinhard Van Astrea and Liliana. It enables the user to tell other people their thoughts telepathically. It can also be combined with singing to increase the strength and the effect range. We can see its usage during Season 3, first when Reinhard used it to take Subur and Brachin's out of Sirius authority, and when Liliana sang to the people of Cristela, like all the times, which makes this divine protection extremely effective, as it could seemingly overlap the effect of an authority. The divine protection of water is used by Felix, and it makes him highly skilled in water magic. It's extremely good, especially combined with the guy born in a family with the best healing magic and the highest knowledge in the water element, inherently making Felix the best healer in the world. The divine protection of the death god was Reinhard Van Astrea's divine protection, and it allowed her to leave wounds with her sword slashes that were unable to be healed. The closer the user is to the affected target, the power of the divine protection increases, as well as the bigger the wound, the greater the power. The effect disappears if the user dies. However, if they are somehow revived, the wounds will open again. It was first shown in Arc 3. Despite being cut in the anime, Wilhelm showing a scar he suffered from Theresia, a wound that would not close. So the foreshadowing for her return was already there for a long time. This is outright one of the most overpowered abilities, as a lot of fighters rely on healing magic to fight, so leaving wounds that cannot be healed is just way too unfair. The more the fight drags on, the more injured her opponent would be, and not even Felix is able to heal those wounds as seen with Mimi. Speaking of her, the divine protection of Trisection is in possession of Mimi, Heteru and TV, and it enables them to bear each other's physical and emotional burdens, also being used to split damage between all users, such as to block death blows. As Mimi is the strongest out of the three, Heteru and TV are often stuck with bearing her burdens while she fights. In addition, they can also launch a destructive interference wave using the divine protection, although Mimi is limited to 5 times a day and Heteru and TV are limited to 2 times. This divine protection aided the trio bearing the divine protection of the death god itself, saving Mimi from dying, and it's pretty versatile as it can be used both to attack and to defend. The divine protection of happiness makes any person who was watching the video to instantly subscribe to the channel to make me happy. I'm sorry, I had to do this one, but you can subscribe anyway, please. Thank you. Anyway, the divine protection of the sun is Priscilla Boreal's protection, and the user becomes stronger during the light of the day. It also increases the effects of buffs she gives with her light magic. Just a buff really, but it's pretty solid for the Sun Priestess herself. The divine protection of evaluation is used by Russell Fallow and Alec Oshin. It enables the user to determine if an item is of good or bad quality, and if the item is in front of them, they can evaluate its condition and quality with perfect accuracy. However, if the user is evaluating an item they've never seen before, they only get to know if it's good or bad quality, but gain no knowledge of how it's used or how much is worth it. Russell is the guy Subaru traded his phone with, in order to have help to defeat the White Whale and the Witch Cult. It is the divine protection for merchants. The divine protection of Sword Saint needs no introduction. It's the divine protection wielded by the Sword Saints themselves. It was formerly used by Reinhard Van Astrea and Reinhard Van Astrea, and is currently used by Reinhard Van Astrea. This divine protection draws out maximum martial skill potential within the user, and makes them able to see white lines which indicate the enemy's sword slashes, creating an optimal path for defense and offense, as quote-unquote, the vectors are drawn out by the sword god himself. Unlike the other divine protections, this one is passed down from user to user at one point, and the previous sword saint will instinctively know who their successor is. People who inherit this ability instantly become monsters of battle, the strongest weapons of the kingdom. Oh, and it's also only passed down through the Astrea family. The divine protection of wind evasion is owned by all earth dragons, and it enables them to be unaffected by the wind resistance while running. The effect also applies to the people in the carriage, making it very useful to travel in all types of weather. Oh, by the way, Reinhard also has this divine protection, so he can be unaffected by the wind resistance while running as well. According to Beatrice in the web novel of Arc 5, water dragons, much like earth dragons with wind, possess an unnamed divine protection that grants them protection from the effects of water resistance. There's also an unnamed divine protection in Arc 5 side stories that grants its user the ability to see or sense the memories stored in objects. By touching or focusing on an item, the user can perceive the events the object has been involved in or has witnessed in the past, which is a great way to uncover crimes and secrets. Camberley, that one dwarf from the alley, uses the divine protection of bedroom wiles, which enables him to be proficient in bed. I have no idea why this exists, and he got a girlfriend with it, apparently. The boss of the warehouse, by the way. The Divine Protection of Foresight allows the user to see the precise location of a target or closely observe opponents. It was used by Musselite, a character from a side story who got tortured by Manfred Madison, a criminal and now ally of Feldskamp who replaced his left eyeball with that of Musselite in order to use the Divine Protection within his left eye. It's weird how he passed this Divine Protection to himself. We also got to know another one of his Divine Protections, the Divine Protection of Coercion, which allows the user to force others to obey or act through their spoken words, kinda like cursed speech. The author was just a little bit inspired by JJK during that arc. Anyway, the Divine Protection of Mindspeak is used by Grassis and Flum, the twin servants of the Astrea family. This Divine Protection allows the users to telepathically speak to each other, without any major drawbacks such as distance. It can, however, only be used once per day. It's pretty similar to Ram and Ram's telekinesis, but they actually speak instead of sharing emotions. The Divine Protection of Ambushing is owned by all werewolves. Although its exact effects are unknown, it enables werewolves to be difficult to find by other people. The Divine Protection of Morale is used by Medium O'Connell, a girl from Wallachia. The more excited or motivated she feels, the more her physical abilities increase in response. However, the Divine Protection is a double-edged sword, since, because it is affected by a person's mood, it also diminishes its user's ability if they feel sad. However, Medium is extremely energetic, so she does take a very good usage of this Divine Protection, but the likes of someone who's sad all the time would not be in a great position. And the boost the Divine Protection gives, although good, is nothing out of the world. Felt also has a Divine Protection, which Elsa mentions is likely related to wind. The Divine Protection allows Felt to dash ahead as fast as the blink of an eye, traveling at inhuman speeds in less than a second. During Arc 5, Felt used their Divine Protection to climb up walls and buildings. According to the author, Felt's Divine Protection is not named the Divine Protection of Wind, so it's still unnamed. And in the Sasagro If, we got to know 5 new Divine Protections owned by the Mad Prince Vig Adgard. First, we have the Divine Protection of Usurpation, which has the power to steal Divine Protections of other people. It is unknown if this power has any conditions for its activation, although we know he has got most of his Divine Protections from other people. With that said, Vig also possessed the Divine Protection of Adaptation, which turned Vig into Mahoraga, and he's able to adapt to any situation and environment. And the Divine Protection of Repetition complements this by making the same repeated movements made by Vig over the course of a battle to become increasingly refined, so he adapts in both offense and defense. The Divine Protection of Isolation allows Vig to constantly raise his battle capabilities when fighting people solo. And finally, he also has the Divine Protection of Indomitability. Although its effects aren't clear, it probably makes him invincible. It normally activates at the moment of its user's death. However, due to Vig's nature as a spirit human, his heart does not beat, causing the Divine Protection to remain perpetually active, making him seemingly invincible. Before advancing to Reinhardt's exclusive Divine Protections, there are also a couple of Divine Protections that were removed from the light novel version, being exclusive to the web novel, so let's quickly list those. In the web novel of Arc 2, the Divine Protection of Sorcery made Roswell Elmatters compatible with all 6 magic attributes, and although the Divine Protection was removed from the light novel, Roswell still retains the magical power. In the same arc, we have the Divine Protection of Clairvoyance, which enabled Ram to synchronize with the vision of those who have the same wavelength, allowing her to overlap her vision with another being. This Divine Protection was never once mentioned after Arc 2 and got removed from the light novel version. However, Ram still retains the power described as a secret art of the Oni clan. In the web novel of Arc 7, the Divine Protection of Earth was used to make the huge Attack on Titan walls from Lupagana more durable. The reinforcement was swapped in the light novel with simple earth magic. And in the previous web novel of the X6, there was a soldier who possessed the Divine Protection of Empathy, which allowed him to read the feelings of a person he touched. He was capable of making 2 people understand each other by simply touching them and standing in between them. However, it is unknown if this power still exists, as the scene it was revealed in was removed from the light novel. Then we have a Divine Protection of a character that was once non-canon and exclusive of the game The Prophecy of the Throne, but made his appearance in Arc 10, Taiga Rolian. Although it hasn't been confirmed to be canon in the novel yet, in the game he possesses the Divine divine protection of insensitivity, which ensures that no external influences, including magical enhancement or impairment, can have an impact on its body, which is a pretty interesting ability because we don't know to what point the external influence could be. Maybe even authorities? Who knows? So now we finished all the divine protections that were possessed by characters other than Reinhard. And from now on, all of these are possessed by the real Honored One. And let's kick off with the divine protection of the Phoenix, which enables the user to revive from the ashes immediately after death, just like a phoenix. He revives with no injuries whatsoever, and his body is restored to perfect shape. It also has an interesting aspect of teleportation, as when Reinhard dies and revives, he can literally respawn anywhere in the world. So he literally hits a /kill with TP with his divine protection. However, this ability is a one-time usage, so you lose the divine protection if you use it, unless you are Reinhard and receive the divine protection of the Phoenix next, which is the exact same divine protection with just the next added. Reinhard will continue receiving the next versions of the divine protection of the Phoenix when the one he has is used up. So yeah, he's pretty much immortal. The divine protection of judgment allows the user to know any divine protections another person has. Reinhard was able to get this divine protection in Season 3 to figure out if Liliana's power was actually a divine protection, and that was done by another divine protection he has, seemingly. You see, it is not really confirmed that this is one divine protection that allows Reinhard to receive additional divine protections, but the fandom likes to call it the divine gift. Whenever he feels that he needs a divine protection in a specific situation, Odlagna will promptly bestow him one. However, if there is a mistake in conveying his intention, he may not receive a proper divine protection. To make it simple, imagine that he doesn't know how to fry an egg, so he asks for divine protection to cook an egg without specifying he wants to fry it. So he receives the divine protection of boiled eggs instead of a specific one to fry it. I think that's an easy way to understand it. He has to be specific. Moving on, the divine protection of mind changing allows the user to change the mind of the person they target with the divine protection. It was used by Reinhard, who gained it at 5 years old to change the mind of Marcus. Due to its potency, this divine protection has been renowned as being dangerous to the rule of nations throughout history, and one who had it should be immediately executed. At the request of his father, Reinhard willingly deactivated and deleted the divine protection to avoid problems with the kingdom. It's an absolutely ridiculous power to have, because it's like he could just change the whole witch cult mind to turn them into good people? I don't even know what to say, man. Anyway, the divine protection of anti-magic makes its user immune against magic buffs, magic debuffs, and curse arts, meaning Reinhard could not be cursed by Capella's blood, for example. The divine protection of anti-malignance allows its user to resist miasma. However, resist doesn't mean he's totally immune to it. The miasma is commonly depicted as the witch's scent. However, it is actually contaminated mana that exudes from those who hold the power of the witches or are connected to them in some way. The Witches of Sin, the Sinner's Bishops, Witch Beasts, and to a smaller extent, low-ranking members of the cult are preeminent examples of this. Miasma is normally harmless when it is in small doses. However, in high density, it will start having negative effects on all things. Living beings with gates will be driven into madness, food will be polluted and go on to corrupt those who eat it, and basically none of these really affect Reinhard that much or any other person who may have this divine protection. But it doesn't mean that he can use that contaminated mana for battle. So if he fights in an environment full of miasma, he will not take advantage of mana from the atmosphere because he can't really use miasma. These next 5 divine protections do pretty much the same effect of reducing 80% of all magic types effectiveness when used against Reinhard. The divine protection of water drainage allows its user to reflect 80% of water magic. The fire avoidance cuts 80% of fire magic. The wind absorption absorbs 80% of wind magic. The mud sleeping decreases the effect of earth magic by 80%. The darkness nullification nullifies 80% of yin magic, and the light disenchantment splits 80% of yang magic. And all of the 4 next divine protections do the same effect of making Reinhard stronger under certain environments. The divine protection of blue skies makes him stronger under blue skies. Terry skies makes him stronger under the rain. New skies makes him stronger under the morning sky, and the night skies makes him stronger during the night. So yeah, you're right. He's stronger under any type of environment. The divine protection of projectile evasion makes any thrown weapons change their trajectory when thrown at a user. user, so Reinhard does not need to dodge a bullet. The bullet itself will dodge from Reinhard. The Divine Protection of projectile striking makes ranged attacks always hit the user's target, so Reinhard will never miss his enemy. The Divine Protection of Sunburn enables its user to sustain burns of any kind, and the Divine Protection of Fireplague grants its user resistance to general explosion damage. Similar to this, the Divine Protection of Waterplay grants the user resistance to general water damage. The Divine Protection of Initiative enables Reinhard's first attack on an opponent to always land and to never fall victim to surprise attacks. The Divine Protection of First Sight enables the user to instinctively know how to counter or dodge attacks they experience for the first time, including surprise attacks. But if the user is unable to physically avoid or counter the attack, the Divine Protection will not activate. Like if Reinhard is tied up, he will obviously not be able to dodge. The Divine Protection of Second Sight enables the user to intuitively respond to an attack that they experience twice or more, with a vastly greater speed than the First Sight. The Divine Protection of the Child of Wind prevents the user from being sick, and the Divine Protection of Panacea makes the user immune from diseases. There's also the Divine Protection of Poison Nullification, which makes the user resistant to all types of poison, so there is no way that Reinhard will ever catch disease or get intoxicated, and he would easily win against the Black Serpent. One of the most useful Divine Protections is the Divine Protection of the Weapon God, which enables the user to use any weapon masterfully right at the moment they touch it. So yeah, you could be practicing with the bow all your life and you will still be surpassed by Reinhard who just touched it. Similarly to this, the Divine Protection of Handling allows its user to know how to use and master any item they hold, being it for combat or not. The Divine Protection of Unarmed Combat makes its user very strong with bare hands. So yeah, Reinhard is strong with or without weapons. The Divine Protection of Orb Walking allows its user to manipulate spherical-shaped objects by interacting with them. This includes objects like fireballs and meteors, allowing the user to freely walk over them. The Divine Protection of Nightmares makes its user exceptionally resistant to the effects of mental contamination and brainwashing attacks, which is probably why Reinhard doesn't get affected by serious authority. The Divine Protection of Drafts enables the user to know where any escape route is, so to trap Reinhard, you have to be careful not to leave any escaping route. But you can't even trick him, as the Divine Protection of Doubt informs its user when someone is up to no good. The Divine Protection of Sandplay prevents its user from sinking into the sand. The Divine Protection of Air Dashing allows the user to kick and fly through the air, and the Divine Protection of Lakes allows the user to choose to walk on water or to sink normally. So yeah, the guy has advantage on any type of surface. And if that wasn't enough, the Divine Protection of Clouds enables the user to walk on clouds, which is cool, I guess. The Divine Protection of Fog prevents the user's view from being obstructed by fog. The Divine Protection of Lightning Cloud prevents the user from being hit by lightning. The Divine Protection of Swift Running permits its user to move at unusually swift speeds. And the Divine Protection of Training makes it so that the user has a keen insight into how to train not only themselves, but also other people to maximum potential. In the Agonal Eve, an alternative route from the ReZero game Lost in Memories, Reinhard used it to train Subaru to the utmost, and he got relatively strong compared to what he is in the main route, able to even put up a fight against Elsa. Reinhard also used this training on those bandits from the alley who joined Feld's camp, turning them into actual capable fighters. To get even better results, it can be paired with the Divine Protection of Instruction, which allows its user to assist with the student's performance when teaching. The Divine Protection of Riding Vehicles allows its user to ride any kind of vehicle, and the Divine Protection of Riding Animals allows its user to ride any kind of animal. Maybe even Volcanica could be ridden by Reinhard if he wanted to. The Divine Protection of Shedding Blood causes the user to become stronger as they shed more blood, kinda like that one skill from Elden Ring. Then we have the Divine Protection of Stormy Skies and the Divine Protection of the Tiger's Den, which were mentioned Reinhard has and uses in battle, however it was not described what they do exactly. And we are finally done with the ones that can be somehow applied to combat, so these next ones are mostly used for disguises. The Divine Protection of Arithmetic allows its user to solve complex math, so unlike me, Reinhard never failed at math. The Divine Protection of Photorealism makes its user excel at painting or drawings, to the point that their art can be mistaken for photographs. The Divine Protection of Gardening eases the difficulty of gardening for its user, and the Divine Protection of Vegetation revitalizes the life force of plants and flowers when the user is in close proximity to them. I'm not kidding, man, these exist. They are canon, okay? The Divine Protection of Makeup gives its user advanced proficiency in using makeup, to the point that they can make themselves appear as if they are a different person. And the Divine Protection of Fashion allows its user to be a charismatic clothing designer, like who's Christian Dior, Rick Owens, Vivienne Westwood when compared to Reinhard. The Divine Protection of Laundry allows its user to excel at washing clothes, even removing huge bloodstains. The Divine Protection of Shoelace, the Divine Protection of Tea Ceremonies, and the Divine Protection of Wearing Layers exist. We don't really know what they do, but we can assume by their name. The Divine Protection of Hairdressing allows its user to be a charismatic hairdresser. And there is a whole list of Reinhard's food-related Divine Protections, which basically make him excel at making any of these. The Divine Protection of Fried Food, Steamed Food, Roast Food, and Boiled Food. And even if Reinhard uses the weirdest ingredients, like a mixture of pickles with stinky cheese and fish liver, it will come out as a top-notch 5-star plate. The best thing you'd ever taste due to the Divine Protection of the Flavor King. But it may give you post-Taco Bell experiences. There is even a Divine Protection for plating, which allows its user to excel at serving foods. And I promise I'll not make another celebrity joke. And at last but not least, the best Divine Protection in the series, the Divine Protection of Salt Reasoning, which enables the user to never mistake salt with sugar. Phew, we are done after saying the words Divine and Protection for more than 100 times. I hope you enjoyed the video. The ReZero Power system also has another major aspect, such as magic, and you can click on this video where I explained everything you need to know about how magic works in ReZero. Other than that, thank you so much for watching to the end, and I see you there.